What up, guys? Welcome to Music Blueprint. My name is Gina Fontanella, one of the co-founders of Music Blueprint, where we teach you guys how to become full-time musicians. Pretty simple. And today we're going to talk about something that actually just happened to me recently. And is it worth it to go on shows? And I mean singing shows, talent shows, the whole spectrum, all of them. Recently, a lot of you guys know, I was on American Idol. I went to top 40, got cut in Hawaii, and just went through the whole process of that. I've also gone through the process of The Voice, and I'm just going to break down, is it worth it or not? And where should your head be at if you want to do it? So I'm going to start with American Idol because that's the one that's the freshest on my mind, and that's the one I've done recently. First things first, it definitely takes over your life. You feel like depending on how long you go into the show, 6 months to a year, that is all you've been doing. That is the only thing that's been on your mind on what to succeed. And when it's over, you have this very weird feeling of like, now what do I do? It was funny. I was just talking to one of my friends on the show, Natalie Jane, who you can follow her at Natalie Jane Sings. Crazy 16-year-old that can sing, I don't even know how many octaves, but it's nuts. And we were just talking about when we got done with American Idol, it was like, we just had this feeling of, what do I do now? Even though you know what you're going to do. Like for me, I was like, what else am I going to do? I'm going to do music. But you just get done with these shows and you're like, oh my God, I've been coming up with song arrangements and working with PR and all these different things. And now it's over. It's really weird. So I'll give you a little breakdown of the pros and cons. Pro is you get a ton of experience. You're kind of thrown into the industry at a fast pace. Simple, at a fast pace. He basically goes from 0 to a bajillion, right? And especially if you've never been in the industry, it feels really, really fast. For me, it felt like almost like a little accelerated version of Another Day in the Office. For my audition, I had to show up at 6 a.m. I had to do all this paperwork and sign all these things. And then, I only knew I was doing the show to try out, like 2 days before, right? So I had to get 4 songs together in 2 days. They wanted me to be prepared with 2 originals and 2 covers, right? So I get all these things prepared. I have to get there at 6 a.m, fill out all this stuff, and let them hear me sing just to make sure I didn't, catfish them. And then I was at the judges, right? So I go in with the judges. You got all these cameras, these lights. People are doing interviews. They're having you sit in the middle of a room and talk with your friends and family and all these things, right? So you're like, oh my God, this is all happening really, really fast. You're just trying to keep a level head. Then you go in and you see your freaking idols sitting in 3 chairs across from you, and you're like, good God, all I need to do is just sing this well. Let me just sing well, right? And in my case, I was singing an original, so I was like, good, just let me do a good job. I just want them to like the song, and I had them sing with me, which was a huge risk, because if the song sucked, then they're like, I don't want to sing with you. So luckily enough, they liked the song. They sang with me. Katy Perry did a harmony on it, and they gave me a golden ticket, right? It's kind of a crazy whirlwind of emotions, of almost like TV stardom a little bit, because you're like, you have all these cameras and you don't know if you're going to get aired or not. You have no idea, but it just gives you this feeling of something is big's going to happen, right? And you get to Hollywood Week, and I'm telling you, Hollywood Week is as crazy as it looks on TV. You are exhausted. I think I got 10 hours of sleep in that whole week, and I was sick. And you're just exhausted trying to get these arrangements together, and you're like, let this week be over. Now, I will say, there are so many weeks like that in the music industry. If you're a touring musician, There are so many times where there was a show here and they wanted me to play this song, and I had 2 days to get the song together because the last week I had been playing shows everywhere else and I had to get those prepared. And so then I'm running on no sleep. I finally get the song together. I play it. Then I'm off to the next thing because I'm on tour. So I had to play a show the next night. Like it's very real life scenario. Like I can't even imagine how the Grammys go, because I'm sure for everybody that's touring, they're having to leave tour and then get their song together on the Grammys, and they definitely haven't had enough time to do that while on the road because the road is crazy. So it's exactly how I've experienced and how I imagine on a larger level the music industry is. You're running on no sleep and you got to get these songs together and you have to crush it, and that's it. And so when you are not used to the industry and you haven't been dipped into it, if you will, this becomes very difficult and very crazy. But if you can make it through, or if you don't make it through and you at least get the experience, it's invaluable. To be able to be that fast paced and be that on your feet, and all the while you're exhausted and doing interviews. I mean, there were times that I was in the holding room and I hadn't slept all day, and I was like, you know what? I was smart enough that I stole the hotel pillow and I stuffed it in my backpack, and I was like, I'm going to be sleeping on this, or I'm at least going to try all day. And so I would pull my pillow out and I would sleep on it, and I would maybe get 30 minutes to an hour in, and then there would be somebody tapping me on the shoulder being like, hey Gina, we need you for an interview. And I would wake up and I would say, can you give me 5 minutes? And they would say yes, and then I would take 2 minutes to actually wake up, and then I would run to the bathroom, touch up my makeup, and then I would be out and I would be talking with Bobby Bones and shooting the crap with Bobby Bones. I mean, you have to be that on top of it when you do a show like this. The second thing I would say is to really be effective on a show like this, you need to have your story figured out. American Idol, since being revamped, is hyper mode on stories. They want to know what sucked in your life, what have you dealt with. Give America the nitty gritty. Now, I didn't really do that. And sometimes I think maybe that's the reason I got kicked off. Who knows? But I just didn't really feel comfortable about putting certain family in a certain light. And that was my decision, and I made that, and I'm sticking to it. But a lot of other times, the story is what sells, right? People want to connect with you on a deeper level. And when you talk about the things that you struggled with, that's a way that you get America to connect with you, right? And there's pros and cons to that. The con is, are you, like for me, like I didn't want to talk about certain things because I didn't want to put my family in a certain light. And, some people are cool with that, or some people have dealt with that and their family's okay with it. I mean, you got to figure all of that out. I know some people, like, they were like estranged from their family, and then they like talked about, how they were estranged from their family, and it made it worse, so there's definitely, you have to kind of know thyself and realize, am I okay with it, or how can I spin it a different way, or I've dealt with more things than this small or this big thing in my life. Maybe I can use a small thing and make it that. You look at Johnny West, right? He hasn't really talked about a lot of what he struggled with and dealt with. But man, his relationship with Margie Mays has like taken over American Idol, So again, you can find things and spin it. And that's just how the show works. You have to understand, like, this is television, and just the industry at large. It's not always about your talent. It's actually, I've said this in our first podcast, a small percentage is about your talent. It's really about who you know and hard work and dedication. So, using that time to, I don't know, figure all of that out is the point. So I think I'll move into like the cons of the show. Actually, no, I still have some more pros. Also the pro is the exposure, right? That's the biggest thing that everybody wants to know about is what about the exposure? Is it worth it? For me, it was worth it. I obviously did the show. I made top 40. Now, if I wouldn't have got aired, I don't think I would have got the boost in followers. I would have on TikTok. And I will say this. When you do a show like this, you have to be very diligent about creating your own content, right? So anytime you see someone sings, boom, take a video. Get people to sing with you, boom, take a video. Take a picture with all these different contestants. Like, you never know who is anybody. You also never know who's going to win the show. There's so many options, right? But creating your own content on a show like this is the biggest thing because they really montaged a ton of my performances. They really only pushed top 10, I would say. The people that are top 10, those are the videos and stuff that they promoted throughout all of Hollywood Week and everything. And I'm super grateful of what they did show. They didn't have to show any of mine, and I'm so thankful that they even showed me a sliver. But because of that, I'm so glad that I did create my own content because the videos that I posted on TikTok blew up because it's all these incredible singers singing Lean on Me and they're harmonizing and people are riffing and people are like, what? Like, everybody on TikTok was like, what's going on? And I still get like, I don't know, 5,000 to 10,000 views a day on that video. And that wasn't from American Idol. Like, I probably because American Idol doesn't really do TikTok, but across the board, I maybe gained 500 followers on Facebook, about 3,000 followers on Instagram, maybe 50 followers on Twitter. So I didn't gain a lot, but also I wasn't one of the big people that they promoted. I got a 5-minute slot in the beginning. I got a montage slot in Hollywood Week, and then I got a montage slot in Hawaii. And they did show all of my performance in Hawaii. They just didn't show my judgment. So that gave me some push as well. But they didn't. Whenever you get montaged, your video doesn't go across their platforms. And when it goes across their platforms, that's where you get the most following. So when my first video got posted across their platforms because I wasn't montaged, they showed my full video, and that I gained like 3,000 followers in a week. But on my other videos, I really didn't gain much because, again, it was montaged and it doesn't get posted across their platforms. And that's where you really gain a following. If you can get a video posted on their Facebook or a video posted on their YouTube or whatever, or on their Instagram, right? That's where you really cultivate a really large following. I know someone like, for instance, Arthur Gunn, he had, I don't remember what he had. I think he had like 3,000 followers and he gained like 60 to 80,000 followers overnight. And his voice is insane. I mean, that's so well deserved. But again, what if you do the whole show and you never get aired and you only get montaged? That's a risk you have to take. Now, they have changed a lot of things on the contract side. So, a lot of times with these shows, you don't have to sign a contract until you're on the show or you're at a certain point. So I think this year was a little bit different because of COVID, but usually it's top 20. You don't sign a contract till top 20. For The Voice, it's different. You sign a contract right when you get on the show. If you don't get on the show, then you're not in any contract. And some people could hate that. Some people could love that. I liked that I got the exposure of top 40 and then I got to dip out because then that allowed me to do other opportunities and I wasn't contractually like liable to American Idol. So, and with me, I recently got into some more opportunities with some labels. And if I would have been signed to American Idol, I wouldn't have been able to do any of that. So it worked out in my favor. But, some people are like, no, I don't mind signing the contract. And now they've had a system. I know The Voice does this, and I'm pretty sure American Idol does this, where you kind of pick lawyers and then they negotiate a better contract than the original contract. Because the original contract that you get is bad. And I'm just going to be honest, it's really bad. You basically are signing a good portion of your life away. And I'm not talking about recent years. Again, I love my American Idol fam. They're the best. But taking somebody like Kelly Clarkson, who was the first American Idol winner, she was signed into a 10-album contract. Now, imagine if you put out an album every 2 years, like a typical artist does. You're in a 20-year contract. For Kelly, she didn't like that. She wanted to do country, and the label would never let her do anything but pop, and that made her mad. But she was stuck in the contract and couldn't do anything about it. And greatest hits albums don't count. So you literally have to release an album, which I think is why she came out with a Christmas album. That's just a theory, but I think it's pretty valid. I think she was like 1 or 2 albums away, and she came out with the Christmas album, and then I don't know, I think it was like 8 months to a year later, came out with her final album. And then she was done. She was out of her contract. And I think she ended up making her own label or something. But again, you have to think about that. If you're a minor, it really works in your favor because you can't get signed into a contract over a certain year amount. I think it's based on years instead of based on albums. I don't know what it is currently, but usually that's the case if you're a minor. So it really can work into your favor if you're young enough. But if you're a little bit older, like me, I'm 27, if I got signed into a big contract like that, it's like I'm signed into this contract until my career's over. And that's a lot to think about. So again, pros and cons, looking at pros and cons. I will say American Idol has an awesome team. They just make you being a part of the show, even when some things are sucky, like you're tired and you're exhausted or your voice is spent, the team around you makes it still exciting and that you want to be there. My experience with The Voice is a little bit different. They kind of sequester you for a month. You're not allowed to have any contact with family or friends. I mean, you can on the phone, but you can't meet up with your family. That's not a thing. You're basically stuck to the hotel, and which is a nice hotel, I will say. Dope pool. You basically got to suntan for a month straight by the pool, and then whatever little things that they had you to do throughout the week, you got to do those. But everything in life is a balance, right? So with every time that you got to suntan, you were thrown into a band rehearsal, and for my season was crazy. I remember sitting around like the fire pits at night and people singing and me being like, okay, usually like I'm a good singer. Like I can hold my own typically. Maybe not with a run singer. I'm not a run singer, but you throw me on stage, I can hold my own. I'm sitting around the fire with these people and I'm like, you guys are nuts. I do not belong to be here. This is crazy. But then you would go to a band practice, and when you would come back to a band practice, somebody would be cut. Like multiple people. It wasn't just like one person. It was like you come back and Stephanie, Robert, and George are all cut. You're like, what? So it was kind of stressful because you would go, one instance of hanging by the pool, and then anytime you would do anything, interviews, band practice, anything, vocal practice with your vocal coach. I mean, it didn't matter what it was. You would come back and somebody would be cut, and you just were like, I'm so stressed out. For like a month, I'm so stressed out. But, The Voice pays you to be there. They don't pay you an insane amount, but they still pay you. And for someone like me that's typically in my bedroom writing songs and I never leave my room, that worked great for me because I got doubly paid. But for some other people, that didn't really work for them because they had to call off work for a month, and some people didn't get their jobs back. So there's another risk that you have. You just have to weigh everything. I will say after the lawyers, negotiated our contracts, they weren't near as bad as they were. It's still a 360 deal, which I'll have to dive deeper into what a 360 deal is later. But in a quick synopsis, it's just they take a piece of the whole pie. So if you have merch, if you have single sales like streaming, if you anything that you do, they're taking a piece of it. Rather than I would say in a good deal, they are not taking a piece of everything. They don't take a piece of your merch. They don't take a piece of all of that. They're basically taking a piece of the songs that you create under their umbrella. But again, you can sign whatever you want. I know, someone like Kesha, a lot of times people get signed in 360 deals because they don't understand what's going on, or they just want it so bad that they're like, I'll sign whatever because you guys are going to make me famous or big or rich or whatever. And Kesha, I think, probably was a byproduct of that. She signed a deal really young. She signed a 360 deal. They took a piece of everything. And then she wanted to do kind of more rock pop, Iggy Pop kind of style. And they were like, no, we're not doing that. And then, I had a conniption about it. So again, it's all about what you're comfortable with. First of all, understanding what you're signing and what you're getting into. And then once you understand it, and then you're like, okay, I'm okay with it, then you're usually gravy. You're usually like, I already knew that was coming up. I already knew I had to give a piece of my merch sales to American Idol. I already knew if Pepsi signed my song that I was going to have to give 60% of it to American Idol. You're like, I knew that. No big deal. And for me, like, I wouldn't have had that platform without them. So it makes sense for me to give them a piece of it. You see what I'm getting at? But not everybody feels that way. So, but I think the first step is always understanding. If you have a question, ask it. Don't be scared to ask it. A lot of times things are moving in such a fast pace that you feel nervous to ask questions because you get caught up in the moment of how exciting it is or whatever. Always ask questions. Always have the understanding first, because then if something happens, you're not blindsided by it and you're not mad about it because you already knew it was coming. Pretty simple. I will say, and I've said this on my own YouTube channel when I was talking about my experience between American Idol and The Voice. I loved I won't say loved. I really enjoyed my experience at American Idol. Again, it has everything to do with the people. The Voice to me was just so much more high strung. And again, they're both high strung scenarios, but it's about the people you're around. You're constantly with the staff and the faculty. And again, there's people that I really connected with and I loved hanging with at The Voice. I mean, people I still talk to today. They're just such chill people. For some reason, I really get along with like producers and stuff of that nature. I just really gel with those people. But again, sometimes I would ask a question and I would get snapped at, and I was like, okay, why am I getting snapped at for like a simple question? Rather than if I asked a question at American Idol, it was just like, oh yeah, it's this. Cool. So it's just different cultures. Sometimes people can just be very direct, just to be quick. And American Idol it can be very direct, but also I think they take the time more on the connection side and connecting with their contestants. Rather than I rarely hung out with the producers other than when I had to do something for the show or something that they wanted me to do for them. So it's just different. Let's see, what else can I talk about for... Oh, the people. How many people that you meet, and going beyond the show, like, look, here's the thing. I think this is another pro and con. There's always people that you love and people that you're like, about, right? And I think that's in life. But when you go through the trenches of a show like this, you kind of bond with people. And for me, I am a person that is a very just upfront person. I'm also a person that if you need help, I'm there for you. I'm also a person that is not deluded on what is going on. And sometimes with shows, a lot of people get caught up in their emotions and they get deluded with what's going on around them in TV. And everything in TV is done for a reason. There's nothing that they do moving you into a room or asking you a question on TV. There is nothing that they do without a reason. And sometimes people love that about me, that I am just very aware and very upfront. And sometimes people do not like that about me. And so I am a very hot and cold person. I just either connect with someone really deeply or I'm like, no, and that person just doesn't like me. And it's not like I don't like them. I just people don't appreciate sometimes my honesty. And I take a very Gary Vee approach to life, to where somebody asks me a question and they're like, man, how do I do this? And I'm like, oh, it's this. You got to do this. And they're like, okay, cool. But da 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 da. And I'm like, okay, but I understand that's your excuse and I understand that, but this is the music industry and you have to go for it, period. And sometimes people just don't like that. But my always intent is to get people to be the best versions of self that they can be. So, for instance, my girl Lauren Spencer Smith, right? Super close to her on the show. She's so freaking talented. Holy crap. She's 16 years old, and I'm like, what in the frick is your voice? You're a freak of nature, okay? She and I are besties, okay? Somebody said on one of our lives, called us Lorena, right? Putting our names together. But she's very much like me. She's very upfront, very honest, and that's why we get along. And honestly, it was funny because I got along with most of the minors. And the minors for American Idol were the ones that honestly had the most music business experience over the older people. And sometimes I'd be sitting in a room with some people and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, are you on TikTok or whatever? And they're like, no, I'm not on TikTok. That's for, young people. And that's where sometimes too, people sometimes think that I'm a lot younger than what I am. So they're like, oh, that's for young people. That's why you're on it. And I'm like, I'm flattered that you think I'm so young, but I'm actually older than you and I'm on this app. And the reason why I'm on this app is because this, and this, and I'll explain it to them. I'm like, dude, you got to get on this app. It's crazy. The turnarounds for going viral is just way higher than any other platform. And I've turned a few people onto it. I finally got Jordan Jones on it, my girl Melanie Mitchell on it, Rebby James is I think now on it. So I've turned a few people, and those aren't all people from the show. Some are and some aren't. But again, sometimes when I would, and when I first got on the show, that was I was just new to TikTok and I just had a video go viral and I was pumped, right? But I could tell when I was talking to certain people about it, they were just like, this girl is way too intense and we don't mess with her. But then when I would go to the minors, I would make a TikTok joke and they're like, oh my God, you're on TikTok? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, dude, isn't it so crazy how you go viral and this and that? And they just got it. They just understood what the industry was about. It was when something new comes out, you don't poo-poo on it. You try to figure it out first, and then you get on the platform and start building your brand and start building your image on that platform, and then you hope that platform goes big, right? That's how it is. That's how Instagram started. That's how Vine started, Snapchat, everything. You get on the platform, you stay committed to it, you be consistent on it, and then you build this huge following. I remember when Instagram came out, which again, this really dates me. I was in college. Actually, I just like graduated high school. And I remember my first picture on my Instagram page was the Katy Perry concert I went to, the Teenage Dream Tour. And it was of her up on a screen in the black wig. And that was my very first Instagram picture. And I remember being like, about Instagram. Like, I don't really care. Why am I going to do something on this? Like, not connecting all of the pieces. Like, I should have back then been doing cover videos, doing a bunch of stuff, releasing them on YouTube, being consistent on YouTube. But instead, I was like being good at school, which I'm not knocking school, but it's all about where your end game is. And my end game was I want to sell out Staples Center. So why am I not putting it into something that I know could get me the return, like Shawn Mendes or Justin Bieber or like all these people? And I should have done that on Instagram, but instead I was like, that's lame and I don't want to be a part of that. And then I got into it, but then by the time I got into it, it was too late. It was too late to build. It was too late to do any of that. And then all the people that had built into it that only had 40,000 followers or so, and then Instagram blew up, then they gained like 200,000 followers, and then it just catapulted them, right? So it's all about seeing the trend ahead of time, and you don't want to get on the trend right at its peak. You want to get on its trend when it's like in its low form. And I knew Musical.ly was going to be big, but when I tried to get on Musical.ly, it just so wasn't user friendly that I was like, I'm running all these platforms. I'm running Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter. I just don't have the time to learn a new platform. And what I should have done, looking back, is I should have just said, screw Snapchat, screw Twitter, screw Facebook and Instagram. I'm just going to dedicate my time to Musical.ly, and then built it from there. And who knows, maybe I would have been the next Lauren Gray. I mean, who knows? I mean, hindsight is 2020. I did get onto TikTok. Once it transferred over to TikTok, I did get on it before it hit its peak. And I still don't even think it's hit its peak yet. I think we're still in the growing phase. But because of that, then it was like, boom, I gained 40,000 followers. So again, you got to recognize the trends ahead of time. And I kind of went on a tangent here. But all that to be said was, that's why certain people, you either love me or you don't. Or sometimes this happens, is I grow on you because you realize my intentions are pure. Because I just want people to be successful. That is and that's the whole reason why I started this program, is because I just want people to be successful. But those are kind of the pros and cons of doing shows. Again, if you have a question, please ask it in the comments. I really did with American Idol. I really did have a good time. I met some great people that I probably will stay connected to, I would assume, for the rest of my life. And it really was a great experience. Even, me, I don't want to say I'm totally seasoned. There's always more to learn. But, I've been doing this for 10 years and I still learned a ton at American Idol. So it's a really big learning experience. If you're young, why not? Why not? I know some people have had bad experiences with it. But again, it's all about knowing the pros and cons. Please do your research. Please look up all the things that you need to look up to understand what the contracts are about, what the contracts are saying, what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. So you're not blindsided that you got all the way to the end of the show and you're like, what do you mean I can't do anything for 6 months to a year? That's a very big pro or con. So again, know and understand what the program is about. And sometimes, finding out that information sometimes shoots you in the foot. But to me, I would rather understand and then not be a part of it than not understand and then I'm a part of it and then in the end I'm jaded. And you have regret. Regret is the worst thing ever. So definitely do your research. I had a great time for the most part, and yeah. This one was a little bit all over the place. I promise I will do a lot better. We're going to finally start having some people on where we're interviewing them and asking them questions. I'm sure when I bring on Lauren, Natalie, I'm sure they'll come on. I'll ask them questions about their experience of the show, and they can hopefully speak candidly. But my biggest hope is that you guys just learned a little bit about behind the scenes about the show and how it can really, for some people, really catapult their career and really make them jump up, like Arthur Gunn or who else is on the show? Like Francisco and Louis. I mean, all of those guys gained over 100,000 followers from the show. That could be you, or it could not be you, and you just get the experience and the life lesson, and then you move on and you know what to learn from. So, again, this is Music Blueprint. So funny. And please, please, please ask me any question. Me and Chance, we'll get to them as soon as possible. If you have any questions about the shows, please ask them. We love answering questions from you guys. That's the whole point of this. We want you to learn and be successful in the future. So please do that and share if you think anybody else would find this interesting. All right, guys. I will see you next Monday.